What is up, entrepreneurs? Welcome back to another episode. I'm glad that you're here. Today, I want to talk about how to make your message more impactful and give you 2 tips to actually make that message more impactful. And these are tips that people usually tend to overlook. They want to, especially when they're first starting on social media or putting their message out there, just trying to get themselves out there, which is understandable. And I have to commend you if you are in this spot where you're just putting yourself out there. It totally makes sense. You're just trying to get started. You're trying to figure everything out. But here are, again, 2 things that are going to really help your message stand out. So, what are those 2 things? The first one is being very specific with what you're going to talk about. And the second one is being time relevant, or being relevant with what's going on right here in your day and time. So I'd like to actually start with that second one. It's, to me, a little bit easier to talk about, and I want to just address that, and then we'll go into the first one, which kind of encapsulates that second point, but I just want to bring the second point out first for you. So that second point being time relevant, being relevant to the situation at hand. We see right now here in 2021, when I'm recording this, be 2022 when it's released, that the government is so out of touch right now. The things that they think are important to society are totally out of touch. But I'm not going to go down the route of politics, but that's a perfect example for you to visualize of what it means whenever you're speaking and it has no relevance. When I'm recording this is right after Christmas, so I'll give this perfect example, which is relevant for you at any time. But if it is Christmas time and I say something about Happy Easter, hope you all have an amazing Easter weekend or Good Friday or whatever around Easter, you're going to be thrown off like, what in the world is Philip talking about? What in the world are you talking about Easter for when it's Christmas? And this is exactly why you want to make sure that what you're saying is relevant to the situation. Now, depending on the content, such as a podcast, typically you want to make sure it's evergreen, or it's something that's going to be good to go at all times. It's going to be relevant in all times. And any content that you can, I would suggest to make it evergreen as possible. There's obviously times when you want to use the time at hand and use the situations at hand to actually make content around that. So for instance, Christmas, you want to make sure you're saying, hey, Merry Christmas, everybody, from my family to yours, or from you to your customers, or whatever that looks like for you and your situation. And similarly, if it's Easter time, say that as well. You can be time relevant, but make sure you're speaking on the actual times. And a lot of times we are a little clueless and we want to be all pie in the sky when things maybe aren't quite going as well as we want to think they're going. I know one of my mentors talks about this a lot, and this is kind of going into COVID and stuff. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but he talks about a lot how our freedoms are getting stripped away, and that we need to stop talking as much about business. Of course, we still have to talk about it. Life is still going on, but we also need to address the matters that are at hand. We can't just completely ignore them and act like they're not happening. And so that's what you need to do when it comes to your content, when it comes to your videos, your message, to make sure that you're addressing those things that are important, especially that audience you're speaking to, but also make sure you're keeping it relevant to the situation at hand, to the time at hand. So again, don't sit here and say, Happy Easter, when it's Christmas time. And going back to the first point, so the one that is more important is actually being specific with what you talk about and who you talk to. So you can really kind of break those down into 2 things. But you don't want to sit here and be generic, be general with what you're talking about, because you're not going to reach the audience that you really want to talk to. Now, I know this is really weird, it's hard, and I struggle with this at the beginning, and there's times when I'm still generic with what I talk about, but I try and pick and choose those times. But when you're first starting out, that is the hard thing, that you want to just be kind of somebody for everybody. But the problem is, when you're somebody for everybody, you're really for nobody. I mean, think about with a baseball versus a softball versus a football. If you just said, "Hey, I'm a sports ball," what sport? I mean, there's a lot of sports to play. We have to throw the ball differently. We have to catch the ball differently depending on which sport it is. So you can't just say, "Hey, I'm a sports ball." And the same thing with being a coach or being in a business. Usually, if you're a product, it helps you be a little bit more specific. But if you have a service-based business, you can't just say, "Hey, we just help people out," or "we coach people to be better." What does that mean? Who do you coach? How do you help coach those people? So you need to make sure that you're being very specific with what you are going to present. So that way people know who you're talking to and how you can help them. And that's exactly what you need to do with your message. Actually tell a story about how you were in a spot. So let's go with weight loss. If you're a coach, you're a fitness coach, and you want to help people lose weight, you don't say, "Hey, I can help you lose weight." Because you're now reaching out to people that are actually got six packs that really probably could lose some more weight, especially if they're trying to get on stage. It just depends on where they're at, what their goals are. And of course, you have the morbidly obese people that need to lose weight. You have the people that are kind of in the middle of the road that need to lose weight. And you have people that maybe they're thinking about trying to lose some weight now, but maybe they don't actually need to. Maybe they haven't really thought about it. But who are you talking to? Because all of these people, for the most part, can lose weight. But how much weight do they need to lose? So you need to talk about who you're talking to. So the example I can give you just off the top of my head is you're talking to a dad. So for my instance, if I was a fitness coach, I would be talking to dads that I can relate to them and say, I understand I've been out of shape before and want to try and play with my kids, and the fact that it's hard for me to bend over to try and get the ball for them, or pick them up and throw them in the air, or go chase after them. It was really hard until I started losing weight. And how I lost that weight was by doing XYZ. So whatever that was that I did, whatever that method was that I had for that. But I can tell this story about how I was just like this dad who's struggling to chase his children around. But now I'm beyond that because I put this system together. And now I want to teach you, the dad that can't chase their kids around very well because they're overweight and they do need to lose weight. So I can help you with this specific system. So get what I'm saying? The fact that I let you know that I'm talking about fatherhood, about being a dad who's a little overweight, who can't quite play with his kids the way he wants to play with. So somebody has that desire to lose the weight already, somebody who has a desire to play more with their kids, and now you have a solution for them. So that's how the message needs to be. And of course, it's not going to be that way all the time, but especially when you're on stage, when you're trying to do the videos to make that sell, you have to give that structure there. Who you're talking to, what's the story of how you were there, but you're beyond that now, and what's the solution to help them get to where they want to get to. And you have to paint that picture as well for them, because before your solution, they are out of shape, can't play with their kids. After your solution, they're in shape and they can play with their kids. So these are the two things that you need to do. You need to make sure that you are specific about what you're talking about and who you're talking to. And you also need to be time relevant. With those two things, especially the first one, you're going to be able to have a much more impactful message. And actually, before I wrap up here, let me go back. Something I forgot to say was that whenever you are specific about a message, so I talked about the dad, and I talked about how he had kids. So that automatically leaves every woman out. That automatically leaves every man without a kid out, or kids out. And it leaves only the dad with at least one kid, if not more kids, for you to talk to. So yes, now you have decreased the audience. The audience is not near as big as it was because you've gotten a lot more specific and a lot more focused. But the thing is, now you're talking to somebody specific and you can actually help that person out and you can actually reach them versus being generic and saying, "Hey, I help people with weight loss." And everybody's like, okay, well, who's this Philip guy? He's a fitness coach that helps with weight loss. That's cool. But can he help me in my situation? I don't know. He didn't talk to me about that. So that's why you want to be specific in that message, so you can let people know specifically what you can do to help them. So for me, I help men that want to get better at speaking, to be able to be a better leader within their family, within their business, within life, to be able to help them be better, to share that message, to help impact other people's lives. So there, a little bit more specific, not completely specific like that example with the dad with the kids, but just depends on your situation how specific you need to get. So again, your message should be specific about what you're talking about and who you're helping, and also be time relevant.